So welcome everyone on behalf of Fulbright Ukraine. We are happy to have this seminar for you. And today, as all of you probably know, because you signed up for this, we are going to talk more about how to write study objectives and personal statements to apply for Fulbright program. So this webinar is co-hosted by the two of us, Inna Barish, who is the director for Fulbright Ukraine, and me. My name is Marta Tomahів, and I will say a couple of words about myself in a couple of minutes. I would ask everyone to follow some simple Zoom rules. If you do not talk, please mute your microphone. If you feel comfortable, open your camera. It's nice to see your faces. If you have an opportunity for that, we will have time for questions. So please feel free to ask the questions. We will also have some opportunities for the interaction. Please do not be shy. We are here all to learn. So you're welcome to raise your hand, ask questions when there is a proper time for that. And we will try to make most out of this seminar, and hopefully it will help you while you will be applying for your Fulbright program. So I'll start. As I have already introduced myself, my name is Marta Tomahів, and why I'm doing this seminar, because I am a Fulbright alumni, and I used to do my Fulbright program 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. But my program was Fulbright Foreign Teaching Language Assistant Program, so it was a bit different from what you might be applying for. I was teaching Ukrainian at the University of Washington in Seattle. And my time was a bit unfortunate because it was COVID, so all the interaction I had was through Zoom, but still I was there, so it allowed me to have some immersion into the cultural context. And also for years, since 2017, I work as a senior English instructor at Academic English Department at Research and Educational Center for Foreign Languages at the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. So I work with the PhD candidates across all the institute of the National Academy of Sciences. Maybe there are some of you here, so welcome. And my alma mater is Ternopil Hnatyuk National University, and I graduated in 2012 from English Language and Literature Department, and I really like my university, and this is one of the top pedagogical universities in Ukraine, so I'm very proud to be its alumna. And now I would like us to take 30 seconds, a minute, if you feel comfortable, please, in the chat box, let me know what are your alma maters, where are you from, and what are your majors? Please feel free to type in the chat box. It's here on the toolbar. Okay, so we have some first responses. Oh, not yet. Okay, so we have Marina from Kyiv Mohyla, political science. And Vladislava, again from Kyiv National Economic University. Ukrainian Catholic University, welcome. Oh, we have Danka from Ostroh Academy, and we have Maria from Sumy and Victoria from Kharkiv. And Bella from Kharkiv, and Regina from Odessa, and Alla from Chernivtsi. So we have such a wide geography. Katerina from Kyiv Mohyla. And we have quite a wide range of majors. We have psychology, theater and cinema and television. That's very interesting. English language and literature, Anastasia, so you're my colleague. And Victoria, yes, so Victoria didn't mention where she is from, but she's also doing literature. And we have Ilarion from Karpenko-Kharkiv University. Nice. And Margareta from Odessa. Thank you so much. And we have Denise from Kyiv International University, and Yuri is Ukrainian Catholic University, not currently in Ukraine. Nice. And Lyudmila from Lviv. Thank you so much. So we have quite a wide geography from all across Ukraine. I see many people from Kyiv. I'm also usually based in Kyiv. Today I'm not here, but I live in Kyiv. This is my home base. And we have Maria from Ternopil. Yeah. Hi, Maria. I'm also from Ternopil originally, so that's nice to see someone from my hometown. Yes, and we have Vera who is doing psychology. Thank you so much for the introduction. We'll have some more time for the interaction, so I hope that more of you can chime in and say something. And now I would just really like to do a very quick poll, since I would really want to know what the background you have. Maybe you have already written, maybe you have already had the experience of writing study objectives or personal statement essays. So I will launch a poll, and we will have, I think, like, again, 30 seconds, a minute to answer the questions. So we will basically have 4 questions, which will be about your experience in writing these 2 types of essays. So please take some time to read the questions, and we will see what is. I will see. Probably you will not see, but I will tell you what is the percentage of people who have the experience in writing these essays or not. Yeah, so let's take a minute. I'll set the timer. Okay, 15 more people need to respond. $13 more. Okay, 5 more people, and we will end poll. Okay, I think that everyone who wanted to respond responded. So we have a very nice picture here, and probably you will have to tell me also some tips on how to write these essays, because we have 53% of people who have applied for scholarships or grant before, and 39 of them, as far as I can say, got the grant. So this is a very good result. And we have 47% of people who didn't apply for a grant. We have 61% of people who didn't get the grant while applying. We have 39% of people who have already written study objectives essay before, and 44% of people who have also written a personal statement essay. So I'm ending the poll, and probably I hope you can see the results. So maybe some of you are visual, so for you it's better to see the, okay, yeah, I can share the results. So you can see and see it better. So this is a very good result, and we will have a part where I will need your opinion. So hopefully you can share. Okay, there's no further delay. Let's just move on to the structure of our presentation, and we will have 2 parts. And first, we will talk about study objective essay. We will have a very short practice practical exercise. Then we will move to personal statement, and that at the end we will have some general wrap up, and we will have time for Q&A and some exit tickets. So we hope to finish by 1 hour, 15 minutes or so, but we planned this event for 1 hour and 30 minutes just in case you might have more questions, so we can have this this time. Okay, hello, Dasha. Dasha just messaged in the chat. So my first question to you will be to those, especially who has responded that you have already had experience of writing study objectives and personal statement. What is the difference between these two types of the essays? They are a very important, and I would say like the essential part of your Fulbright application. And I just want to emphasize that today we're going to talk more about Fulbright application, because you know that you may apply for different grants and for different programs, but we will concentrate more on Fulbright specifically. But if you have applied for other programs and wrote these two types of essays, please unmute yourself, or if you feel free, if you feel better to write, what is the difference between these two types of essays? Any volunteers? I know it's a bit hard to talk when the group is very big and there are like 50 people of us, but as I said, this is the space where we can learn. So please do not be shy. Even if you say something that might not be 100% correct, it's still the learning process. Okay, so okay. Please.
I'm just on the way home. Okay, personal statement is more about yourself, the way you fit to the program that you choose. So it's more about how you built to how you are built to the person that you are right now. Study objective, more about the logical framework or the plan, what you're gonna do with the program you applied for if you get it. The people that will choose the final participants in the program will look at the outcome of what you chose and how you will benefit to the program itself as well, because the grant means that you are going to benefit and also someone else will benefit from what you get.
Thank you so much, Ala. Yes, this is a very, very correct approach. So usually in study objective, we write more about our academic pursuits, what we want to do about our field. And in personal statement, we do write about ourselves, but we also do write about ourselves in the light of our professional career and why we in particular could be a very good fit to do the work we are planning to do. And we have the response from Maria and Anastasia in the chat. Anastasia says that study objective is a motivation. Yes, you have to mention about your motivation in study objective. And Maria says the study objective is more about scientific things, stuff, and personal statement is more about yourself, like autobiography. This is partially correct. We will talk about personal statement, and we will mention that it's important to mention about yourself in this essay, but do not actually write everything about yourself, like to not write the whole autobiography, but we will talk about this later. Thank you so much for your responses. So you see, you know already the main difference between these two types of essays. So let's dive deeper into details, and let's just cover the basic musts before you start writing, because I just want to emphasize today that it's very important to realize that we have some process before we start writing, and this process before is equally important as writing per se, because preparation means like 50% of the job that you are going to do later when you start writing your essay, or even more. So first of all, be very attentive when you read the recommendations, guidelines or requirements for the specific program. So today we're talking about Fulbright program, and for example, one of the most important highlighted things when you apply for Fulbright and when you read the recommendations about how to write study objective is not to mention the US university you would like to study in, because this study objective might be read by different universities. So if you mention one specific university and other university reads it, it's not practically good for you as an applicant. So this is a very important thing, and when you read these guidelines, make sure to follow them. Also, so today we have like April 24th, and I know that your application, your Fulbright program application is due to May 16, so it's still enough time to write your essays, but generally just secure that you have enough time, and secure the time in a way that you have it for all the stages. As I said, preparation means a lot, and remember about such stages as like the research of the educational programs that the US universities offer, brainstorm part. Sometimes you might be very sure what you want to do your research on, and you may be already identified with the narrow like topic in your field that you want to do the research on, but sometimes it might require some more brainstorming. So secure that you have enough time for that. Also, remember that when we do writing, maybe you already know this, but we don't do writing in one sitting. Sometimes you have to do the whole cycle. You have to do the brainstorm, you have to draft the first draft, then you can leave this draft, you can come back to it after some time, and then maybe you don't like it and you have to do the brainstorm again. So this is the process that usually goes in circles, and make sure to leave enough time for reviewing by yourself, for reviewing by some other people that could be competent in the field and give you some piece of advice on how to improve your application, and also for proofreading. Believe me, some simple and in the first sight innocent mistakes, they can really influence the evaluation of your application. So when you do this, make sure you have time for all these steps. And remember that the structure of the essay, it's one of the key successful tips, and we will later talk about it, how we structure, or how we don't like on behalf of the program, we cannot like recommend you how to structure. This is your approach, but there are some tips that can help you to structure your own essay, and of course the content that you will be writing, it's solely your own ideas. And just before you start writing, and this is like a personal piece of advice, try to talk to yourself, or if you do this in writing, or if you do this with a friend, and understand your internal key motivation to do the program. Like, I know that it's very exciting to go abroad to do the program, and we always want to get this like intercultural experience. But before applying for Fulbright, you really need to know that you want to go there to the US to advance your academic career, and that is the need that you have to fulfill specifically in the US, not just because you want to know the culture and the country, but because this is the place where you can advance, and specifically in your field. And we will talk more about this later, but just your key motivation, it's if you understand and realize your key motivation to do your studies in the US, in the scope of Fulbright, it's already a very big share of your successful essays. And also, while understanding your key motivation, you also have to be very clear with stating your goals and tasks you want to accomplish, or your one main goal and the tasks that will help you to accomplish this. And usually the simpler the tasks and the goal are, and the narrower the better it is, because it helps you quicker and in more concise manner explain why you want to accomplish this program there. So let's move to some more details about study or research objective essay, and what you are expected to cover in this particular essay. So first of all, as you have already mentioned, Ala and Anastasia and Maria, you were mentioning that it's important to write about your motivation and your program. Yes, I can say that it's very important to write in research objective a very clear and very detailed description of the program you want to pursue. So that's why I was mentioning about the research. So maybe before applying, you can just like have a general research across the universities in the US and the programs they offer and how these programs might match your scientific interests, if there is anything that really can match, because you don't want to apply for something that is not that well represented. So that's why you have to reflect this in your study objective. And usually before writing, try to answer some questions to yourself. For example, so you found the program and explain what stages of the program. Does the program entail writing a PhD thesis, or maybe preparing the portfolio? So how you're going personally to accomplish these, and how much time you will need for this? Do you need 2 years masters, or a year and a half, or maybe 3 years masters to do this? Also, what subjects do you need to take to accomplish your goals? For example, you want to study something really narrow, which is not represented in Ukraine. That's why you want to go to the US. But you really need to see the set of subjects. Maybe it's not one subject. Maybe this is the complex of subjects that you need to do. So you also have to mention this in your research objectives. And why particularly in the US? Why not some other European countries? Like which US program is strong in that? Maybe, you know, some scholars that maybe you will not be studying under their supervision, but you still know that the US is strong in this. So you have to exemplify this and explain this very clearly in your study objective. Also, you have to really know your field very well, coming from the general field and narrowing it to what you want to do in like what you want to do. Maybe there is a gap, and usually when there is a gap, this is when you can ground and say, yes, there is the gap in this field in Ukraine, in my field in Ukraine. That's why I want to go to the US, because they have filled this gap, and maybe I can take this experience and bring it back and adapt it somehow. So just try to clearly identify the area in your field of study that you want to specialize or concentrate. And it's always better to come from more general to something more narrow, and of course to be able to identify this gap, as I already said, and try to explain how, like, which US experience will help you to contribute to this field and fill this gap, and that's why you accomplish or complete your program. Also, you have to describe what you want personally to accomplish during the program. As I said, what exactly you want to concentrate in while you're going to do practically. Do not always describe like the theory, but try to concentrate on practice, like how like what interests, what field in you, what interests you have in your specific field, and why are you so interested in this? What led you to this? Also, try to concentrate on your own portfolio and your professional background, which supports you in continuing doing this research. So for Fulbright, it's very important that you do not just start your academic pathway with the Fulbright, but did you have already either worked in this field, or maybe you have already started to do this research practically or theoretically, and you want to continue this like this job, but maybe outside Ukraine, because you have already exhausted all the resources. But if you are able to show any training that refers to your field, this is that any training or education that fits and that you want to continue in the US, this will make your study objective strong. And usually this study objective, it will be more about your research, more about the project you want to undertake or master's program you want to take. And as I said, the structure is very important. So I would say that this essay should have rigid structure, like 3 or 4 paragraphs. And in today's seminar, I will be talking more about like 4-paragraph study or research objectives essay. So let's like try to see what we can include in each of these paragraphs. So in as I said, study objectives tells more about you as a professional and your professional objectives during your study if you get the grant and or the scholarship. So in paragraph 1, you have to tell more about yourself and explain your motivation why you want to study in the US. So usually this is a very short paragraph, like up to 3-4 sentences. It should be very brief. And also you have to describe your project, research, thesis, and show that you know how it is located in your field, and especially how it can cover that gap if this gap exists in the study, and how your studies will help to accomplish that. Or for example, if you need just to deepen the field, or maybe you do some more like some practical job like sciences, for example, you work in the lab and you know that none of the labs in Ukraine will allow you do certain experiment, but you know that the US lab can do that, so you could concentrate on more. But it should be very, very brief and very concise as for the first leading paragraph. And in this paragraph, just try to answer these questions for yourself. How your study, research, or project that will be narrow, how will it benefit the whole field? So again, here when we talk about study objectives, you always have to remember that you have to show that you're expert in your field in general, and that you can move from this general interest to more specific. So you have to show that I'm going to do this and that research because my general field will benefit from this if I do this, or we have these gaps and that's why I have to do this research. And also you have to show your specific way, your plan, how you want to undertake it, because maybe the people will have the same ideas they will apply for the same specialties, but your way will be better, and that's why your application will be stronger, because you will be able to outline a better project proposal plan than others. That's why it's also very important to envision how you can fulfill your research. So basically, if we conclude this paragraph, first paragraph is more about you, about your project, and it demonstrates your knowledge and your proficiency in the field, and it shows how well you understand the general field and how well you understand specific and narrow focus that you want to do the research on, and how well you can explain this. I mean, if there is any questions while I'm talking, I can talk a lot, so you can just you have this raise hand button, so you can always just raise your hand and I will stop, or if you need me to stop on any of the aspects. So let's move to paragraph number 2. So in the second paragraph, after you have introduced yourself and said a sentence or two about your field, about your narrow focus, in the second paragraph, we will have to concentrate more on, and as detailed as possible, on why you need to do your project in the US. So why US, as I already mentioned? Why not any other European country or any other country in the world? So, and try to answer these questions for yourself. Why should you go to the US to complete your project? Try to explain this to committee. And I would also like to emphasize that this study, these essays, these are the first things that the committee who reads your essays see. So sometimes when you write your own essay, you might think that everything is so clear because you are already in this topic for such a long time. That's why for you some things might seem obvious, but imagine someone who is not working in your field. So that's why you have to explain this and elaborate it so people can understand what you want to achieve, but also see your personality through your written words. So in the second paragraph, you will have to explain why the US. Why cannot you complete this project back at home? You have to show the contrast of the field that you have at home in Ukraine, and what opportunities the US might give you if you compare them versus to what you have at home. I provided that experiment with the lab. For example, you might do a lot of research in Ukraine, but you might have one small aspect left that you cannot do in Ukraine, and that's why you need the US institution to help you to complete this. And also, since Fulbright, this is like the program that is very highly academic, but also its aim is to promote intercultural understanding and build bridges between the cultures. You also have to, maybe slightly, it's not the main focus, but it's also highly recommended to show how exposure to foreign culture and intercultural dialogue you might have on campus and while cooperating with the peers will enrich your project and will enrich your studies and will help you to complete or accomplish your goal. So basically this, like the second paragraph, you move from your own introduction, description of general, from your project in general, to focusing on how studies in the US will help you to accomplish what you have envisioned or planned. After you have thought on this, we will move to paragraph 3. I'm sorry, I have a mistake here. And in paragraph 3, you try to link together two previous paragraphs. So you try to show your knowledge of your research that you did. What are the trends in the US in your field? So what's something new, or maybe you have identified some school that works in the same light that you work in your research. How these like general trends will help you to accomplish your goal. And as I mentioned, you should not mention the specific university, but maybe you know that there are like some theorists or scientists, scholars, or some school of thought or some general approach that you would like to work in. Maybe they are existing in the US, and for example, literature on those is more accessible. So you might want to mention this. And also you might want to mention like how maybe some infrastructural opportunities will be better for you. As I said, like like labs, some other creative spaces. It depends on your field. And also a big focus is having the experience to work in American academia, to have this experience of studying at American university. So you might also mention how being a part of American scholarly discourse or community will help studying your work. For example, you might do your research in education or in international education. So for you, it will be very important to be part of that and experience that, to be able to compare or to try to define some like pros and cons and so on and so forth, just an example. And you can also play on the contrast again. You can show the differences between what you might experience from preliminary knowledge in the US and what we have in Ukraine, and how different these two systems are, and why, for example, for you it is important to be a part of American academic community. So basically, in this third paragraph, we try to combine, as I said, what you have mentioned in the first paragraph about yourself, your study, what you have mentioned in the second paragraph about why US is so important. So here you just try to build these bridges between these two paragraphs. And here you try to talk about some exact trends. You also show your awareness of the trends. You show your interest in the field that you are doing the research in your country, but also you're interested what is happening in the US. And also you show your knowledge of the people who are maybe in the front of the field development, and maybe they are situated in the US, and that's why you have to go and do your research there. And when you cover these three parts, we move to the fourth part, which is the concluding part. And in this part, usually in many types of essays, in the very final part, we kind of reiterate what we have mentioned before, especially in the first paragraph. So in this fourth paragraph, you will reiterate again your project or research or study idea. that you have introduced in paragraph 1, but you will try to bring more practical perspective to it. So you will try to introduce the committee who is going to read your essay on what will be your final product. What will be, why do you have to do these 2 years or 3 years masters? What will you achieve at the end? And why do you need that much time in the US to complete your project? And why are you different from other researchers or other students in the same area? Why are you the best candidates to do this research and to receive this very big grant to study in the US? And why specifically this stipend should be awarded to you? Maybe you can very briefly mention your experience that you have in the field. So basically, you have here to have a little advertisement for yourself and for your particular personality. Have you, having given this opportunity, be like the best fit to do this research and then bring it back to Ukraine, or make some advancements in the field, or fill in the gap that you have identified. But in this case, you have actually to, if you don't know how to brag, you have to learn a bit how to brag yourself and show that with your accomplishments, you are that person who has the skills and who has the knowledge, the background knowledge and experience to continue doing this research. And the very important piece is that anything that you do within the grant, any knowledge that you get or skills you get, it should benefit Ukraine, because after the completion of the program, you're expected to come back home and you're expected to share what you have learned with larger audiences of people, with your colleagues, with your students, or practically in the fields that you are working in. So just to recap, this fourth paragraph, it just like gives the description of final product of your study or research or your program, and it shows how it will benefit Ukraine and how it will benefit you as a researcher, so you have this power to complete and accomplish the research that you are doing. So this is very briefly, this is very in a nutshell, and I hope that you can receive this presentation later. Maybe it will help you, and some recommendations, it will help you to to have this like framework before you start writing. But as I said previously, that writing study objectives, it's solely your work and content is solely yours, and we cannot recommend you to follow this or that structure. We just provide you what might work, but you yourself might decide what works best for you. And now you know that across the internet you can find so many resources that can help you, and I will also mention a couple that will help you to write this. But now I want us to practice a bit. So I will share one piece with you. It will be a piece from the study objectives, and your task will be to read it, to try to guess which paragraph is that. So I'll remind you, or maybe you will remind me if you remember in a second. So you'll have to after the analysis, tell me which piece is that, and maybe give some recommendation on how to improve this, because I will spill the beans. This essay was not award winning. This essay needs improvement. So before we start practicing, let us quickly recap the structure. I know it's hard to remember, especially when there is lots of information, lots of talking from me, but maybe you can remember the parts that we've just discussed, the paragraphs, and what we have to include in those paragraphs. So what do we usually write in paragraph 1? Who would like to? In paragraph 1, the very introductory paragraph, what will you do? What will you write in your study objective? Okay, Olha, I see Olha.
Yes, so in paragraph 1, we mostly write about ourselves, about our project, and answer the question how we can benefit the field, where we plan to work in the future and study.
Yeah, so like most essential to show that you have this, like you want to benefit this small narrow field that you work in the scope of the general field. Thank you so much, Olha. Okay, paragraph number 2. Okay, so Sophie also answered. Thank you. Paragraph number 2. What do you mention in the second paragraph? Okay, so Regina, please.
Yeah, in second paragraph, we mentioned about US, why we want to do it there, not in another country. And also, like, mention what we would like to do there and about the culture moments, why we want to do it in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Regina. This is correct. Thank you. Paragraph 3. What do we do there?
I don't know how to raise a hand, but can I
Okay.
answer?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. As I remember, you should mention how your experience will influence in your following work studies in Ukraine. What you're gonna bring from the US to Ukraine, I suppose.
It's more, so we mentioned about this more in the concluding paragraph, paragraph 4. So paragraph 3, if you go back, it's more how we combine the first 2 paragraph and what you already know, what's happening in the field in the US. So it's more about like the combination between the paragraph number 1 and 2. So you still talk about your field and you still talk about the US, but you transit to the benefits in paragraph number 4. But thank you so much. So you have a very good memory that you remembered, and you could structure this in your brain. Okay, so this now you'll have a very short practice. So I will give maybe 4 minutes for you because it's not that, I mean, it's not a long paragraph. So please read this paragraph. Try to think. So we have here the instructions. So check this excerpt from the study objectives. I'll type this in the chat if for someone is better to read. So try to analyze which paragraph is that, like 1, 2, 3, or 4, and how do you think you could improve that? How you can improve this paragraph? Like what is written not in a very good way, maybe not well explained, and I know it will be hard to know what to write because it's not your subject. So maybe let's first take 3 minutes to read it. Later, I will ask you what paragraph is it. We will check if it's correct paragraph, and then I will give you some more time to think about how to improve it. Okay, so please let's take 2 minutes to read it. Just to read and think about which paragraph is that. Okay, so we have some responses in the chat. Okay, so Lesa thinks it's the second one. Danka thinks it's the first one. Katerina votes for the first one. Okay, let's do the following. Let me pull up your faces. If you think this is the first one, just do a sum up. Put sum up for me. Okay. Okay, yes, I see. Not so many people think this is the first one, but still, we have a good number of people. Yeah, I will tell you this is the first paragraph, but I would say it's not that successful. So what do we have to mention in the first paragraph?
How they feel the benefit for study.
So, and in this one, it's not really clear what the field the person is studying, right? So let's take another 3 minutes, and please try to rewrite this paragraph. Try to, if you type on the computer, try to type on the computer, or maybe if you don't want to type, just think how you, like, based on the information provided here, it's not much, but still based what you have in this first paragraph, think how you can improve this first paragraph and how it can look like the let's say not ideal, but like a good quality first paragraph. So please, let's take 3 minutes for that. Okay, we have 30 more seconds. Okay, time is up. Just my alarm didn't go off. Okay, please, who are the most courageous to try to analyze this piece and say what's wrong with that? Okay, so we have, first I'll read the answer from Sophie in the chat. So Sophie suggests that this piece should start. I have been studying the pedagogics for a number of years, and I have been working with foreign students who came to study in Ukraine. I found out that due to diverse cultural background, it was difficult, so I started to research how it can be improved. For this, I think the cross-cultural environment will benefit me. Good, very good. Yes, Victoria suggests that that she needs to mention her education. Exactly, more details about her job, like where this person, he or she, is delivering classes and how long she's doing that. Exactly, and then the person needs to proceed what challenges has occurred when she's working with the students. Good. Any other ideas? Anything else that we can add?
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Should we start like my name is and I'm this and I'm writing with the purpose, or this is not necessary?
This is not necessary, and I will mention later. Try to avoid cliches in your essays. So clearly, if the committee, first of all, they see your application, they will see your name like in the whole application. So you might start with something like, I want to pursue my education in the US, and explain why, but maybe not necessarily mentioning your name. But of course you can mention where you studying or where you work, because this is very essential and like in the field. But like these cliches, like I'm writing with the purpose to apply, probably it might be too extra information that is not necessary. Okay, Anna suggests that maybe some more clear information could be added. Yes, about the benefits and how to undertake the highlighted goal. Yes, I feel the lack of knowledge in the field. The subject will help to achieve this goal. Yeah, or the person might explain that they have studied these or that subjects, but haven't had an opportunity to study this. Very good. So you see, this is like very clearly, it's always easier to say what's wrong, and it's always not that easy to know how to write it in a right way, but these contrasts sometimes is very helpful. Yes, and Natalia mentions that, yes, narrow the subject of research, be more precise. Yes, methodologies is to write, like what kind of methodologies. Maybe there is some exact methodology to work in cross-cultural environment, and the person can show that they are aware about them, but they didn't have experience, didn't have opportunity to learn about them. And this like methodology is too broad field. Okay, thank you so much.
Ask a question.
Yes.
For example, in this excerpt from the essay, the author have mentioned about his professional experience in the field of studying students, and and as I understand, we should take part in competition for doing our scientific research. And in this case, could we start the essay with some, for example, I am doing research in economics in the field of human sustainable development, and I for example, in Ukraine, and have experience in such types of investigations. And furthermore, I would like to be in, it's very rough, but in the USSR, because it's a multicultural country, and it's very interesting to do research how in the USSR they have a deal with multicultural sustainability, achieving, for example, the sustainable development goals in human development, taking account multicultural diversity, for example. Could be it's correct? type of research concerning our research proposal, no, because as I see, it concerns about something like teaching proposals.
Yeah, but this is just an example. I mean, your research proposal might be on across the fields that you are working in. This was just an
But
example.
research proposal, it's possible, is possible.
Yeah, because for example, some master's program, they require you to write a thesis, which is also a research. So you can use these words. Yes, but what you have described, for example, like why you want to go to the US. So this will move to the like second or third paragraph, because right now we are discussing the very first paragraph, in which it would be most relevant to how you are in this narrow field. I mean, this general field and narrow field.
Dear Marta, and did I understand correct that the first paragraph I should to form such sentences which catch a hook who will be read this paragraph and want to further read in another parts of my essay.
Thank you, Mariana, for the question, and I will be talking about this a bit later when we have like general tips, as like concluding tips. That usually, yes, you have to personalize both essays you're going to write, and you have to use the tools, if you know how to use them, that will capture the attention of the reader, and that will make your essay stand out. Maybe not something too dramatic, and probably it's better suits the personal statement, because it's more like personal statements shows more about you as a personality, your personality as a researcher, as a professional. Maybe here you may be more dry, I would say, more academic, but yes, you're right. If you can think about a very good hook, sometimes people use quotes. Some researchers say that quotes, they are a bit out of fashion and you don't have to use them. It's up to you how you think, how comfortable you are with your own essay, and what you want to use to emphasize it and divert and draw attention to it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Ludmila, please, you are raising your hand.
Yes, I'd like to, I have a question about study objective. So in my essay, I wrote a lot about my intentions and what led me to choose my particular program. And I wrote in detail about the current situation in Ukraine and connected it with my major. Is this correct, or should I remove this part to the personal statement?
So I would say that if it's like too extensive, like in personal statements, you more show your background and have your background like suits your further career that you want to pursue in the US. So I would rather say that I cannot recommend like 100% move it to the personal statements, but just see what is extra and try to move it to personal statement. But a very important thing, try not to repeat yourself in these two documents. If you so in personal statement, you'll be more showing your background, how you develop as a professional, and what in your life, in your personal life and professional life, led you to the point where you are right now and when you want to continue your research. So if it fits better that perspective, like that, the background and your story there, I would say remove that. But if you see that it supports better your knowledge in the field, because if you describe the detailed knowledge, that's also shows that you know this, that you know your own field. But also try not to mention too obvious factors or like too much. Be very like attentive to the size that you spend on description of the field, because sometimes you might be describing the things that might not necessarily be too extensive. Like try to be concise, because we don't have the requirements on the volume, but usually it's like 700 words. It's a page or two, not more than 2 pages. Like I would say page and a half. This is the optimal amount. We don't have, again, you will not probably find this requirement there, but it should not be too long. It should be very concentrated and very bright. So I don't know if it answered your question, but just like see how it fits the structure, and if you feel that it's more suitable in describing yourself and your journey, so you may think of moving this to personal statement.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we'll be wrapping up with the study objective essay, and since we don't have that much time left, we will move to personal statement. So my piece of advice, if you haven't started yet, start working on your study objectives as soon as possible. Maybe not after this webinar, but tomorrow, you know, because the time is ticking, and you definitely will need some more time to revise and to have fresh eyes to look at your essay. So personal statement is usually, I cannot say it's like more interesting or less interesting, but personal statement lets us share our stories, but not too much. It's not autobiography. Do not try to describe your like where you were born and how it's led you to where you are now. I will show you. So I applied for Fulbright not for once, and one of my first personal statements, when I read it right now, I'm like thinking that was almost a biography. And, you know, sometimes in Ukraine we are required to write autobiography when you apply for work. So this is when you write all these details. Personal statement, it's not the place where you have to do this if you want to apply for Fulbright or the US University. Yes, this is the narrative statement. And Mariana was asking this question about hooks, how to make the essay more interesting. So this is a place when you can add some creativity, and when you can make it bright and really leave the trace in committees' minds when they read it. And usually in this, like using the narrative technique, you can include some information about your education, practical experience, maybe some special interests, career plans, of course, and of course you have again to mention what is your purpose in applying for studying in the US. And in this essay, it's very important to show how your life experiences, even if they are personal, but in a very tiny amount. Usually if they are like personal, professional, educational, how these life experiences shaped you to a professional you are right now, and how they made you how they helped you to be in this point in your life, and why right now you want to continue your studies in the US. How they culminated in your motivation. What is your purpose of study in the US right now? So you have to be really very clear here about how you have exhausted the resources in Ukraine, for example, or any available resources to you. So that's why you need to do this scholarship. It's not just because you want to go to the US and see the US, but because you really need this for your career. And this is like the very, very, very high time. You know, I remember when I was applying for the Fulbright, when I got the grant, there was, you probably saw in the application, they have a couple of questions. Why are you applying? And there is one option, time is right in my career. So this is where you have to explain why this time is right in your career that you are applying for the scholarship. And also mention any significant factors that influenced your professional and educational development. Sometimes it happens that you are applying for some different specialties. For example, you did your majors in Ukraine in one field, but then you worked for a couple of years in some other field, you really liked it, and you feel that you lack the knowledge. So that's why this is a very good place where you can explain how the shift happened. So for example, you might do finances as your major, you might have done, but then you went into this is very rough example, but maybe in some psychology field, and maybe you did some courses or something like this, but you still require some extensive education, and you can explain how this shift happened or what motivated you to have this shift. Sorry, that was probably too rough example, but I just wanted to emphasize that this is the right time. And also in personal statement, this is a perfect place where you can show your passion. when you show the passion for the field that you're working in, why you want to work in this field, why you want to improve this field in Ukraine, and how Ukraine will benefit from the studies, and what have you done in this field before you're applying for Fulbright. Because as I mentioned before, it's very important that Fulbright is not the beginning of your career. It's just the chance for you to improve, to get things, to have things done after what you have done already in Ukraine, what you have accomplished in Ukraine. This is the moment when you can become better. And that's why it's very important to show what you have already done to achieve a certain point in your career that you have achieved. You have some question. Yeah, so Anna mentions the way have you come to this idea of research through experience. Exactly, like you have to show this way, like how come that it happened that right now you want to pursue this particular field or do this particular research. And as I said before, we also have to stick to some structure, and in this case we again talk about 4-paragraph structure. And I will walk you through each of the paragraphs like we did before. So the first paragraph is, as we were talking about study objective, that the first paragraph is usually short. So you again tell about your educational objectives, but in a very clear and concise terms. And also you might maybe mention even some like theoretical background very shortly. And it's very important to keep this part very, very brief. And again, you come back in this part to like essential questions. You try to answer how your general interest in the field brought you to this specific and narrow area. Like, how come you want to do this narrow research? And but this is like twofold process, because then you have to explain how advancement or filling the gap in your narrow field will contribute to the general area. So basically in this like very short paragraph, you have to write a very essential piece of your personal statement. It's and explain how your educational objectives, like which educational objectives you have and how they will, if you solve them, if you reach them, how they will benefit the general field you're working in. So like, what is the purpose for you to go and study in the US? So the next 2 paragraphs, paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, they will be longer, because this one, as I said, like the first one will be 3-4 sentences. Paragraph 2 it will introduce the reader through the way which brought you to this particular professional interest. So this is basically what, if I'm not mistaken, Anna was just typing in the chat, like showing the way how you got where you are. And here on the slide, you will have like a couple of questions that you will have to answer. Again, what are your professional, personal experiences? Yeah, like professional, personal experiences led you to these interests and objectives, and like how you want to achieve them through your project that you're going to do in the US. How did you come to the larger field of your interest? Like generally, you might introduce how you chose your professional career. What were the very initial interests and accomplishments? Maybe you started to do the research on this topic and you have some achievements already. Maybe you were awarded some short-term scholarships, or you presented the topic in the conference and you got some very positive feedback, or maybe you have already participated in some competitions and you can also share. So you have to show all the background that you have in this field, and if you have achievements, it's great. Through this paragraph, you have to show how did you develop as a scholar. Maybe you can share some bright story about how it happened. What or who influenced your development? What were the most significant factors? And as I told you before, so in this paragraph and generally in personal statement, you have to show why Fulbright and why this grant will be either a very logical next step in your career, culmination of your career, the step without which you cannot continue your research or project. So this is the place in this second paragraph when you can describe all of this. Of course, like you may split these two, like it not necessarily should be one paragraph, like a whole body paragraph. You can split them in like 2 or more, but this is essentially what you have to cover in this chapter. And we have the Anastasia raised her hand, so please, Anastasia. Do you have a
Yeah,
question?
thank you so much for this information. I'm applying to a Fulbright Graduate Student Program and not a research program. So I already structured my personal statement, and my first 2 paragraphs is actually about my childhood. So my question is that correct, or should I change that to my more recent experiences? But I'm studying international law. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm studying international law, and I kind of explain why my childhood influenced that.
So let's see, to answer your question, thank you for like clarification. You can include your personal stories, but try to keep them as concise as possible to the field of research. So if it's really something really bright, and this is the point when you started to think about your career in international law, yes, I think it's worth mentioning. But also pay attention to the volume. So if it's like 2 whole paragraphs, maybe you will think, if you think it's relevant, to shorten them, or maybe leave the most essential parts. Or if everything is essential and you think that this is a very good explanation why you appear to be in this profession, you might leave it. I don't know. I have not had a read of your essay. For me, it sounds a bit too long to have like the whole 2 paragraphs like on the childhood. But if you think that this explains where you are right now, I don't know, you have to do this the way you feel is the best. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And just to conclude, so this paragraph is again about the way of your professional development, your professional journey, and explaining how Fulbright grant is in time for you to continue this journey or to advance in your journey. In the third paragraph, it also may be a very long paragraph. You can describe the work that you have already done towards your study or research or something that you have accomplished. I know it's like echoing somehow to the second paragraph, but here you tell more about your personal journey. And in the third paragraph, you tell more about your accomplishments and your achievements. And also, of course, you again come back to the fact how the US will help you to achieve these goals. And again, while writing, try to answer the questions like, what have you already done? What have you done in the very narrow field you want to do the research in? What do you have you accomplished some of the projects? How the study in the US will help you to accomplish the project, but in more narrow way. I know that you already talk about this in the study objective, but here you talk about exact things that will help you to do this. How have you developed your passion for this project? And also, what else you want? Are there any other achievements besides the one that you want to pursue in the scope of the Fulbright that you have on your record? Mention about this as well. And again, this is a very important paragraph where you can emphasize that you have already exhausted the resources that were accessible to you in Ukraine, let's say. So this is the point where you can show why you need to go to the US to complete this, to complete this or make it move forward. And again, you have to talk not only about the libraries, about the better equipment that might be there, or anything like that, like I would say hardware, but also if there is like software in quotation marks that will help you to continue with your professional career. You have to mention this here. So again, so this paragraph is about the story, how you started to do this particular narrow project you want to do, or a particular narrow field you want to advance your knowledge and skills in, and how you're going to develop this in the US, and how it is impossible to do this in Ukraine, because maybe there is no other available resources and you have exhausted already everything. And this is the place to emphasize that only studying in the US you can achieve your goals. So this paragraph should answer the crucial question, why you want to do what you want to do, and how the US can help you accomplish that. And we move to the final part. As I said, usually the final parts, the conclusions in the essays, they reiterate what we mentioned from the very beginning. So you might refer again to what you want to accomplish very briefly, but here you focus on how your experience, your studies, your project in the US will advance the general, the larger level of scholarship in Ukraine in your field, and how it will advance your field. So basically how you're going to share the experience you will get, the knowledge you will get, what will you improve having gotten this experience, what will you develop, how you will contribute this, how you will make this exchange benefit Ukraine, our society, your colleagues, and generally the scholarly field. So this paragraph, it's about the contribution to the field that you're going to make in your field, or generally in the academic life, scholarly life in Ukraine after you return. And since we don't have much time left, but I would want us to practice a bit again, to do the same thing as we did before. Probably we'll spend some less time. I prepared 2 pieces, but let's do one. Let's do one again. Please read it and try to think which part of the personal statement it is and how you could improve that. Again, this is the excerpt not from a successful application. So please, let's take again 3 minutes. I think that's enough. I can copy it in the chat if maybe some of you might be from the phone, so it's not that easy to read from the slide. I see first responses. So you see most of you have already read, because it's not that long paragraph. Yes, and you are completely right. This is the paragraph 4. Yes. And we have some responses. Yes, the text has some mistakes in English. Yes, so as I said, sometimes we might think, oh, an innocent mistake will not make anything, but we should, before applying, you should proofread. And I would recommend that even if right now we do type things, before submitting, print it out, because it looks differently, it reads differently when you read from the paper. It's sometimes you see things you will not see on the screen. So I would recommend doing that. Yes, Anastasia says it's too general, exactly. It's just too general. It's hard to say. And you know, like in your applications, I know that all of us might have this very big ambition to help Ukraine, to modernize Ukraine, to move Ukraine forward. But if you write something, I will help Ukrainian educational system, think how you're going to do this. Because you also need to have clear steps in your head, how you're going to implement your knowledge back in Ukraine. And you will not come to the minister and just say, hey, I just came from Fulbright, so that's why I can do this or that. I mean, maybe you can, maybe you can, but sometimes we have to be more realistic about what we can do. So that's why our steps should be more realistic. And in this excerpt, we see like modernizing Ukrainian education as a whole and a cross-cultural education in our country in particular. It's way too general. Okay, we have some other responses. Yes, so Sophie says that we might add some more details. What theoretical and cultural experience can be helpful and in which way? Exactly. So what exact like theoretical backgrounds the person wants to do research on? Exactly, like in which way Ukrainian education may be modernized? Is this that the person comes back to her department and let's say delivers the training for her colleagues, you know, or writes a book and publishes this? These are exact ways. Yes, Ludmila says it has many cliches. This is correct. Exactly. More clear. Anna writes that more clear about how you will inject the obtained knowledge, not in Ukraine in general, but in community or through some institution or school. Exactly. So if you work in some institution, you can always mention in your application that you can work directly with this institution and have you, like what network you have that will help you to introduce that. So if you are applying for this program, but you have not only have your bachelor's, but you have already have the professional experience and you have some networks, you can also mention this in your personal statement where it is relevant on how you're going to use what potential you have in all terms: knowledge, experience, skills, people, network, to benefit the field that you want to benefit, especially in this concluding paragraph. Thank you so much. That was a great job. You have so many good insights. So probably that's now I see that the results of the poll, that almost half of you already have had the experience of doing this. You just showed this in practice. So thank you so much for that. And I can give you the. I'm just trying to find my my emojis. Emojis are my favorite feature in Zoom, but they're hidden somehow. Yeah, so I can give you the round of applause for your answers. Thank you so much. And since we are finishing and we have not that much time left, I'll just I'll spend another 2 minutes just on, maybe less, on general tips. As I said, your clear motivation and your clear understanding why you want to get Fulbright grant is like half of the success. And in your applications, try just to be yourself, be genuine, be honest, and be realistic at the same time. Never ever plagiarize. Even if you, I know that sometimes you will want to look for some other examples, how other people write statements. You might refer to some reference books or YouTube tutorials or any other things. And this is okay to do, but never plagiarize, never use the same words. And if you want to use quotes, or if you find it's reasonable to put them somewhere, use appropriate citation style, go through APA, MLA, depends on the field that you are working, but try to do this in a very proper way, because Fulbright is an academic program, and this also is taken into account. As I said already, I mentioned it like 15 times today, narrow your field and show that you know the general work in your field and your narrow focus, because you know sometimes it's very visible to which extent the person is knowledgeable, because if you write about something that you think does not exist but it exists indeed, it already shows that you didn't do enough research. So do a very, very profound and deep research. Especially in a personal statement, try to be alive as a person and creative. And we said that try to look for some hooks that will help you to share your story and make your story right. And you know, sometimes you don't have to go to creative writing in your personal statements, but if you use one metaphor and which will be powerful, it will help your essay stand out. Because imagine the committee, they might read hundreds of essays, but if you write something that really catches and it is really relevant and it really makes your application stronger, this is something that they might remember and pay attention to your application specifically. You can use examples. So when you, for example, describe your experience, just don't write, I have an extensive experience in this and that. Show, like, do not just show by examples. How did you get this experience? For example, you organized some event, you organized the conference and you highlighted this topic. Or for example, you participated in this conference with this particular topic, you presented. So just name it, show it by example that was really true, that this is not something generic you want to describe. Again, like, don't be afraid to share your personal story to the extent it is possible and comfortable for you. But as I said, try to narrow it and do not write your biography. Do not state the same things that you already stated in the application. Try not to repeat yourself. Try to find the ways to show how passionate you are about your field, about your prospective research, because only if you're passionate about what you want to do, only then you can be motivated enough and you can convince that you are the right person to do this research, and that your level of passion will help you to receive the best outcomes. And as I said before, use academic style, check all the mistakes, print out the paper, read it, have someone else read it, ask someone else to give you feedback. Maybe someone else can ask you some questions or point you where there are some things they don't understand and probably the committee might not understand. So don't be afraid to do this. As I say, always leave some time before you send the application. Never send it the last minute before the deadline, and walk away for a day from the text. Just leave it and then come back. And of course, you have to use professional terminology to show that you are a good expert in the field and you do know the theory, but also try to use this in accessible ways so people who might not be the expert in your particular field can understand what you are writing about. And there are some don'ts. As I said, don't provide chronological order of your life events or accomplishments or something like this. Do not repeat things from your application. Do not use boring cliches. Do not plagiarize or use inappropriate citation. And as I said, for Fulbright applications, do not mention the name of the university. So if you have any questions, or if you have time, because I do have time, but yes, please, Regina. Yeah, we'll keep like.
I have a question about work, because I get my experience from work. Is it okay to mention my company, like the name of it?
I mean, sure, definitely you'll be uploading CV, and I think you can mention, especially in your study objective, how the work especially if the work have motivated you, or maybe something that you met in the work motivated you to apply, is in this study objective when you introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. But and it's okay to mention like name of company, or just that I work for company, but don't mention the name of it.
You see, you will mention the name in your CV anyway, so it will be in your application. Yeah, so the people will know where you work, but just like see how relevant it is to what you, I mean, to your study objectives.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question, like about the war, because it's totally influenced for all of us. Is it okay to mention somehow if we explain my experience?
Can you please repeat that last one?
Yeah, is it okay to mention the war because it's influenced in the life?
I mean, if it influenced, for example, in your personal statement, if it's relevant, of course you can mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, or for example,
Thank
if
you.
the war made you think about applying to the program. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Bella?
Okay, I have a question about recommendation letter because I don't know which condition is needed for recommendation letter. I cannot find on the website.
Bella, I think this question is better to address to general Fulbright inquiries, because I'm not working on the Fulbright program. I'm just invited to deliver the webinar on the essay writing.
Yeah, okay, I understand. I'm sorry. Thanks a lot.
No, that's fine. I just don't want to provide you with some misleading information. Yeah. Thank you. And Laura?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the CV because as far as I know, usually in CV you should mention your previous mostly working experience or kind of it, maybe your, I don't know, studies, some courses, certificates. But for example, I'm studying screenwriting. So of course I haven't worked yet in some companies in this specific sphere. So for example, I have just my portfolio, my screenplays, and I can provide only this. So what should I mention in my CV?
I think that as a part, this is again probably the question that you have to address to Fulbright in general. So this is usually you upload your portfolio if you apply for creative specialties. But in your CV, maybe you can write there, like you can mention that you have attachments. For example, attachments, the following attachments available, and just mention what you include in your portfolio. Or you can mention in the scope of which projects you were developing this works. Yes, but this question is better to be addressed to maybe Pani Inna, because she'll be more competent to answer that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and we have one more question. This is again this is the question about the form. So who wrote about the question about the access to confidential references? Again, I would suggest you ask Pani Inna, and because I'm not able to address these questions. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I think yes, we are running out of time, and just the last piece that I would like to ask you, maybe you'll just spend another 30 seconds. Takeaways. What takeaways did you get from today's session? Was there something new, something interesting, whatever you learned or whatever you liked? Can you just like type me quickly in the chat? Yes, about being clear as possible, the structure. Yes, helpful to get questions to be addressed. Yes, that's good that it's clear about the structure. Yes, the structure. So yeah, the structure is very important. Yes, exactly. Like you should be as precise as possible, as exact as possible. When you're too general, too generic, it doesn't always help. Yes, explain next steps. Good. Yeah. Thank you, Dasha, for attending. Thank you all for attending. Actually, Yes, I think that these questions, I mean, having the questions and when you have the question, it's easier for you to understand what you have to write and how you can answer. Okay, we have one more. I think I'm not sure for 100%, but I think you'll get the recording, but I'm not positive for 100%. Oh, so Alexandra is joining us from Norway. Thank you, Alexandra, for being here. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So if it will help you, I will be really glad, very glad. And I wish you sincerely lots of inspiration, lots of time, and good ideas, good examples, good words. I hope that proper words will come in proper places in your essays. Yes, and thank you so much for coming and spending this evening listening about these tips. And again, all the probably inquiries you can address to Fulbright Ukraine that we can, because I'm not that good resource. So thank you so much. I think we'll be wrapping up. Stay safe, have a good continuation of the evening, and apply for Fulbright. I hope that we will receive a big number of applications and interesting proposals. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.